SEC basketball, it just means more this year, 2025, breaking the bid record that stood since 2011 by the Big East with 11 teams, 14 SEC teams. Yes, that is 14 finding their way into the big dance, heard their names called on Selection Sunday, and I'm here to talk about it with you. I am Luke Tackett, the host of the Full Court Trap podcast. My co-host couldn't be here with me for this video, but that's all right. I wanted to talk about this one. I'm an SEC basketball enthusiast. I've grown up a Kentucky fan my whole life. So seeing this conference thrive, it's really nice to see. And I'm excited to talk about it, and it needs to be talked about. This deserves a video in itself, and I'm getting straight into it here. Obviously, the 14 teams that got in, pretty outstanding, to see. That's not something that we have ever seen in college basketball. We've obviously, like I said, we saw the 11 with the Big East, but as many as 14, that is unheard of. And there's been some controversy online when it comes to 14 SEC teams being in. I've seen arguments from other people that say, well, should a 14th place team ever really be in the NCAA tournament when you think about it? And I mean, in this case, the answer is yes, because you look at the 14th place team in the SEC, the Texas Longhorns, they're a top 40 net team. They've got a star talent, Trey Johnson. Tremont Mark, he's a bucket getter. There's guys on that team that have had college experience, like a Jordan Pope, Arthur Kaluma. That's a strong team, and I guarantee you, if you threw them in this year's version of the ACC, maybe even throw them in the Big 10 or the Big 12, they probably are going to finish better than 14th. And that's because when you look at all of these teams that are ahead of them, I mean, it's just unbelievable to see just the overall quality of this entire conference. Obviously, you've got Auburn, the number one overall seed, Florida, another one seed, Alabama and Tennessee at 2 seeds, Texas A&M a 4 seed, Kentucky at a 3, and then you've got other strong teams like Missouri, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, like I said. And you're looking at those teams above Texas, so you consider all of that, a 14th place Texas team being left out with all those other squads that have been taken into account. Not the craziest thing in the world. The only states on this conference this year were LSU and South Carolina, and obviously 16 teams were never going to get in. But the SEC has been trending upwards for a number of years now. Really, for the longest time, this used to just be Kentucky's league when it came to basketball. I mean, I would know Kentucky obviously holds the record for SEC tournament titles with 32. That's more than I believe the whole league combined. Regular season titles, it's probably somewhere similar. I don't have that exact number off the top of my head. But Kentucky, they're on a dry spell here. They haven't won a conference tournament since 2018. And that's not because Kentucky's fallen off a cliff by any means. That's just because the conference around them has gotten so much better. I mean, you look at the Kentucky squad since 2018. 2019, that team went to an Elite Eight. The next year, the COVID season, SEC tournament never happened, but they looked like they were primed for a good run in that tournament. Then you got into the actual COVID season itself. Kentucky stunk that year. Won't talk about it. That was one of the truly bad years of Kentucky basketball history. But moving past that, I mean, 2021, 2022, Oscar Tshiebwe wins National Player of the Year. They go out to St. Peter's, obviously, but there was a stretch of that season where Kentucky looked like one of the best teams in the country. The next year after that, they get a top 4 seed, have a little bit of an underwhelming regular season, but Casey Wallace, Antonio Reeves and company, they lead Kentucky to a top 4 spot. And then last year, Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, that team obviously bowed out to Oakland, but they looked electric at times during the regular season. And a lot of people were having them as a trendy pick to go far in the NCAA tournament. So Kentucky, the quality of Kentucky has not gone down by any means, but you look at the other teams around the league. I mean, you see what Auburn has done. They have the number 1 overall seed this year. Bruce Pearl, ever since he took over that program, it's been nothing but good things. 2019, they get to the Final Four and quite frankly were robbed against Virginia. We all remember how that went with the questionable missed double dribble call, and was it really a foul that was committed on Kyle Guy? I mean, yeah, it's still debatable to this day. And Alabama, they've been trending upwards ever since Nate Oates got there. Most memorable was probably that year that Brandon Miller was at the helm for them, and they lost in the Sweet 16, but they dominated the SEC and really looked just star-studded all season long. Todd Golden's bringing this Florida program back. They've got a 1 seed this year. A lot of people are penciling them in as a national title pick this postseason. Just won the SEC tournament title, and that's just to name a few. Rick Barnes at Tennessee, He's taken a program that's really just been predominantly known for their football and their baseball, and now they're a basketball school in many ways. I mean, football, basketball, and baseball, I would argue, they've all been solid in those areas. Texas A&M with Buzz Williams, Missouri, Dennis Gates turning them around, Chris Beard over at Ole Miss. And it goes on and on. Mississippi State taking guys like Josh Hubbard and Jans over there, getting that squad into a respectable unit. Mike White taking over at Georgia, making them a tournament team. Cal, obviously, he had his struggles with Arkansas this year, but he got them into the dance. And that's really an accomplishment considering where that team started off. And Arkansas in years past, too, they've been really strong under Eric Musselman. That's just the overall point I'm getting at here is this league, it used to be a punching bag. It isn't anymore, nowhere close. I mean, you look at the final AP poll, number 3, we had Florida, Auburn at 4th, Tennessee at 6th, and then you had Alabama at 7th. I mean, that's 4 teams that are taking over the top 10 there for the SEC. That's something that we're accustomed to hearing in football, not basketball, though, that's for sure. And then you've got teams like Kentucky and A&M in the top 20 still, heading into the NCAA tournament with good seeding under them, and Missouri still in the top 25. Just the overall strength of this league, man, it's unbelievable. There were, I believe at one point it was 10 teams that were in the top 20, top 25 for this league. You look at the net rankings, I mean, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, all within the top 10. Kentucky, Missouri, Texas A&M, all in the top 20. Then you got teams like Ole Miss, Georgia, Mississippi State, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, all within the top 50. That, like, what the SEC is doing this year, it's not normal by any means, and it's been shown by the way that this bid record was demolished by the Big East that was set all the way back in 2011. Now, we have seen, like last year, the SEC had a good amount of success in the regular season, and then you got into tournament play, and it really kind of faded away. Kentucky bowed out early, Auburn bowed out early. Tennessee got to the Elite Eight, failed to make the Final Four. Alabama really carried the weight of the conference last postseason, making it all the way to the Final Four. They have the potential to run it back this year as well, I think you could argue. It's going to be very interesting as we get here into the NCAA tournament to see this league get tested against the field of 68, obviously. You're going to be getting the best of every conference from this point out. And if the SEC wants to make its claim as this year being the best league for any conference ever, the time to prove it is right now in the postseason, because you look at this bracket. Auburn, I think they have a manageable path to the Final Four. You get either Louisville or Creighton in an 8-9 spot. You're better than both of those teams. If you play your best brand of basketball, you're going to come out on top. And then you look at those 4s and 5s with Texas A&M and Michigan. Texas A&M has been Auburn's kryptonite, but I mean, to say Texas A&M goes on, that's even more of a credit to the SEC strength that they're able to go take out the number 1 overall seed. And then Michigan's, UC San Diego, either of those teams, even a Yale. Auburn would have a little bit of a revenge spot against Yale if they manage to get as far as the Sweet 16. But I think you feel comfortable about that draw. And then you look at the bottom half, it's probably going to be Michigan State coming out and meeting you in the Elite Eight there. And Michigan State, they're the best of the best in the Big Ten, I firmly believe. Even though they weren't able to go out and win their conference tournament, I still think they're the best. They proved it in the regular season. Outright champions, without a doubt. I think that Tom Izzo has the strongest squad there. But even still, I think Auburn would have a big advantage in the front court there with Janai Broome, obviously. Dylan Cardwell's serviceable, but even Chaney Johnson off the bench, I think he's even stronger at times. The guard matchups between the likes of Jace Richardson and Todd Pettiford, Denver Jones and Miles Kelly going at those guys, that'd be very interesting to see unfold. You look at Florida as well. I mean, they have a pretty manageable path to an Elite Eight, and I would say they've got a strong case for a Final Four as well. You're looking at probably St. John's in the Elite Eight. Now, St. John's, they play a really tough, nitty-gritty brand of basketball. Defense is top tier. Rick Pitino's always had his squads really hone in on defensive DNA. But the scoring sometimes, it's a little bit questionable, whereas you look at Florida, they're probably one of, if not the best scoring teams in the country. So I think you've got a favorable matchup there, assuming you take care of your business in the 8-9 spot, UConn and Oklahoma. then that little quad of the 5-12s that feature Memphis and Maryland against those underdog teams, Colorado State and Grand Canyon. It's a manageable path if you're Todd Golden and the Gators there. Then you look elsewhere too. Bama with the 2 seed, they have a very favorable path to get to the Elite Eight, where they're probably going to be on a crash course with Duke. Do they have the strength to beat Duke? I think they are deep enough. Are they talented enough? I'm not sure. I picked them to be in the Final Four in my initial bracket reaction that we did as a group podcast. I've been thinking about that pick long and hard over these last couple of days, and I'm going to be thinking about it all the way until tomorrow when the brackets close, because I think this team has Final Four upside, but in terms of the 1 seeds they could have drawn, Duke, that's a pretty tough out. And then going into the Midwest, your most likely candidates to go far out of there, Kentucky and Tennessee. Tennessee, they've got a favorable path up until the Sweet 16. It kind of feels like, assuming Kentucky, my Cats, can get over the first round hump, it looks like there may be a part 3 to that Kentucky-Tennessee game waiting in the Sweet 16. And then the winner of that going up against what would most likely be Houston. If Houston's going to go down, I honestly think it might be in that 8-9 spot against Gonzaga. Mark Few has an excellent track record of getting to the Sweet 16, so that cannot be taken lightly. Gonzaga should not be an 8 seed. They are 100% worthy of a 6 or a 7, but that's just to sum it all up briefly. The point I'm trying to make here is that the SEC, you look at this, there is a genuine chance that the 4 Final Four teams could come from the SEC. Now, you know, things in this tournament are likely to never go the completely chalky route that we expect. So the best teams are not always going to win. And we're probably going to be looking at an unexpected team emerge, maybe from the East or the Midwest. I just feel like Auburn and Florida are such safe bets to make the Final Four, but I could be wrong. And it's going to be very intriguing to see how all these SEC teams fare down the stretch. But you got a lot to like if you're an SEC fan going on into the tournament and even beyond. I think next year is going to be a pretty strong year for the league as a whole as well. Definitely not going to be as strong as it was this year, I don't think, because Auburn, they're going to be losing a lot. They're not going to be quite as good as they were. Tennessee is going to be losing Chaz and Zakai, so that's going to be a tough blow for them. I imagine Florida's probably going to be losing a couple of guys as well. Kentucky's entire team, besides Otega Owe and Brandon Garrison, really, all upper-class guys that are probably going to be on their way out. Missouri, Texas A&M. There's going to be some squads that are going to have to do some rebuilding. Alabama's going to be losing a lot. Mark Sears and Grant Nelson most likely on their way out. That's just my brief thoughts on that because I don't know. With all these fifth-year things that happen and medical red shirts, you never truly know who's running out of eligibility and who isn't. But it's going to be a pretty tough rebuild project for some of these squads in the SEC. But with NIL into play and all the resources these schools pour into things, it's going to be easy for these teams to land good recruits and have good transfer portal classes. And I have a feeling that by the time the summer comes to a close and we're looking on to what is going to be happening next year in the college basketball world, the SEC is probably going to be right back in the mix of the conversation. I definitely don't think next year you're going to see as many teams get in, but you could definitely see probably 7 to 9 teams get in next year. The league has a very bright future as a whole. It's very encouraging to see from what it has been in years past, from the early 2010s and the 2000s, just before that. It's really taken a turn for the better, and it's an exciting thing to see as a Kentucky fan. I like seeing my guys go up against the best of the best. It makes me feel good going into tournament play like I do this time around, knowing like, hey, Kentucky's battle tested. They've played in the best year all year long. They're going to be ready for any of these teams that come at them. And it's very, very good just overall for the conference and the grand scheme of things to not just be looked upon as a strictly football league or a strictly baseball league, just being well-rounded and whatnot. It's very encouraging to see, and it's a lot to be excited about moving on in the future for SEC basketball fans and just fans of the sport in general. But I just wanted to get on here and talk about that with everybody. Going to be an exciting postseason to see. I'm very curious to see which of these teams can make their way into San Antonio, assuming one of them can, or maybe something crazy happens and we have a scenario like last year where we're talking about the SEC being a letdown in postseason play. But I think the quality this year has taken such a leap It's going to be very hard to envision that happening. I think that we're probably looking at Auburn and Florida being the best bets for the Final Four. And I could see a wild card coming out like in Alabama or Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee breaks through and makes their first Final Four. Maybe Kentucky keeps Lamont Butler healthy and those other guys step up in the absence of Jackson Robinson and something happens there. Maybe Calipari works his magic over in Arkansas. It wouldn't be the first time that he had an underwhelming team. 2014 Kentucky, 8 seed that made it all the way to the Final Four. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but you can't ever count it out. Texas A&M, they play physical. The shooting's not there at times, but they can bully some teams and make a good run. There's a lot to monitor as we go on, and I'm very excited to see this all get kicked off here in the coming days. Auburn and Tennessee are going to be in the Lexington bracket region, whatever you want to call it, those first couple of games. I'll be in attendance to go see those teams play, and hopefully they put on a good show for the conference. But yeah, just means more, everybody, even more so this year. SEC basketball on top of the college basketball world heading into the postseason, and we'll see if it stays that way throughout.